She's one of my young leaders. She's a really neat human being. I have great respect for her, and I'm going to hand her the mic now because I've just given her just enough breathing space to look at you guys and to realise the fangs aren't there. They're really nice people. Yeah, you go for it, Jess. We'd love to hear your testimony.
Yeah, I'm not good at this. I don't like public speaking, but I'll give it a go. Most of you may know who I am, but for those who don't, my name is Jessica Kate Hansen. I would have been called Benjamin if I'd turned out a boy, but lucky for me and to my parents' delight, I was a big baby girl. My mum and dad called me Jessica because it meant God beholds purity, as some of us may have learnt the other week when we had our other Jessica Kate dedicated. A little bit about me. I'm just your average, happy, fun-loving, bubbly, outgoing 17-year-old that loves hanging out with friends and family and loves to laugh. It's like medicine to me. I'm into hair and makeup, and I like to paint and cook and eat what I cook. I was born on the 24th of April 1997 in Alice Springs, Australia, but I'm Kiwi. I'm turning 18 this coming year, and it will be my final year of school at Western Heights High School. I live here in Rotorua with my amazing mum, who was meant to be at work, but she's come down on her break. My older sister Rochelle, who's 19, and my younger brother Simeon, who's 15, so I'm the middle child. I was born into a loving missionary home where both my parents loved serving the Lord overseas. First in Alice Springs and then in PNG. My mum Janice and my dad Chris both grew up in Christian homes and both had 4 siblings each. My mum's parents, Gail and Stuart Purdy, who a lot of you know, were missionaries when my mum was growing up. So with both my mum and my dad growing up in a strong Christian environment, once they got married and had us kids, we were all raised under the same values in a loving Christian home. Over the years growing up, there have been a few ups and downs, events that have defined who I am as a person today. Some of them happy and some of them good, and some of them are not happy at all. A happy moment for me that I can still remember was when I was 6 years old on Easter Sunday 2004, or Easter Saturday. We were home here in Rotorua on one of our furloughs we had every 2 years from PNG to visit our family. We were staying at Grandma and Granddad Hansen's house, and Dad had just finished tucking me and Rochelle into bed upstairs, so we were all snuggled up and warm. We were talking about the day we had had earlier, and Rochelle asked Dad if she could invite Jesus into her heart. So Dad led Rochelle through the prayer to accept Jesus into her life. Now I decided that I wanted to invite Jesus into my life too, because I love Jesus just as much as she did. Dad had finished talking to Rochelle, and I asked him if I could say the prayer as well, because what he had told Rochelle when he was talking to her sounded pretty cool. So to Dad's delight, he took me through the prayer as well. To be honest, I don't remember feeling different that night, but Mum said for the next few weeks, everywhere I went and everyone I met, I was telling them that I gave my heart to Jesus yesterday, or I gave my heart to Jesus last week. I just felt like me, but apparently I was really excited to have someone new in my life. Although I remember feeling proud to have had the courage to have asked Dad to help me do this, I don't regret it, and remembering back, it's one of my special memories that I got to share with my dad. I now had Jesus as my Lord and Saviour, and Mum said that when Dad came downstairs and asked him why he took so long tucking us into bed, he had tears in his eyes and told her about what had happened and how he got to lead his 2 baby girls to the Lord. It felt cool knowing that there was always someone looking out for me, someone who loved me unconditionally and would always be there for me to talk to. So I stuck with him. As I got older, I started understanding more and more about the cool thing I had actually done when I was younger. But even to this day, I'm not sure what he has in store for me. I'm still happily trying to figure out and walk down the path he's got for me. So that was a positive event that had an impact on making me the person I've become so far. But a more unhappy event that's still vivid in my mind to this day was on Tuesday, the 22nd of February 2005. My dad, Chris Hansen, was a pilot for Mission Aviation Fellowship, or MAF. He'd flown for them in Alice Springs for 3 years. Then when I was 9 months old, we moved as a family to Papua New Guinea. We lived there for going on 8 years. We were living in Telefomin, a small rural village, totally isolated with no roads in or out, only accessible by air. Mum homeschooled us kids with New Zealand correspondence, and Dad helped on his days off. On the 22nd of February, Mum was in the kitchen baking and looking through the window while us kids were in the schoolroom getting help with our bookwork. We had a knock on the door, and it was one of our family friends, Uncle Norbert. He was also a pilot that flew with Dad sometimes, so it wasn't out of the ordinary for him to pop around. Us kids carried on working while he took Mum outside. When Mum came back in, she looked blank, and we could see tears welling up in her eyes. I started to panic as Mum set us 3 kids down. She had this look in her eyes like something was wrong. She held us kids in her arms and told us that the men down at the base couldn't talk to Daddy's plane anymore, and they weren't sure why. My dad headed to work that day as usual, but didn't come home. Dad didn't deserve to die that day in the crash. He was just doing his normal everyday flying to the village communities to help provide services that we needed, ones that we take for granted here in Rotorua. A huge amount of PNG landscape didn't have roads, so travelling by air was vital for getting around. He was flying the Tuanota he flew every day. He was with his co-pilot Richard heading into a small 600-metre airstrip that he'd landed on heaps of times before up in the mountains at a place called Wobbegan. When his plane crashed and he and Richard died, thankfully all the passengers survived.
Let it run.
Being brought up by my parents who had faith in God helped me with the emotional impact. They were teaching me to have faith in God even when things don't work out the way we want or when things bad happen. I didn't fully understand at the time how Dad's death was going to impact on my life, but as a daddy's girl, having to come to terms with this loss, plus seeing my family dealing with it, was really hard. I didn't understand at 7 why God didn't allow Dad to be protected that day and survive the accident. Some days I was really angry with God, and Dad too, for leaving me. But then again, I knew God was real and that Dad was in heaven. This somehow helped me accept this new reality and gave me peace of mind. Even though Dad was gone, I would eventually be okay and be able to cope. For a long time after Dad died, and now still if I'm honest, I thought about all the things I'd miss out on, like him helping me with my homework, like he used to, tucking me into bed each night, kissing me goodbye each morning before he left for work, coming on school camps with me, meeting and critiquing my first boyfriend, walking me down the aisle when I got married, and being a granddad to my kids, along with a million other things that all daughters want to experience with their dads. I was going to miss him, but I knew one day I'd see him again. After Dad's passing, we were then faced with a lot of difficult choices. One of them being what we were going to do next living-wise. So we packed up, and do we pack up or do we come back home? We ended up deciding to come home because Dad was the breadwinner over there with his flying. So it was best for us to come back to where we had family support. We stayed for 7 weeks and travelled around a few of the many villages that wanted to say thank you and goodbye to us. It was amazing to see the impact my dad had on the isolated village communities and just how many people loved and appreciated him. We eventually packed up and said our goodbyes. Mum had Dad's body embalmed and sent home ahead of us, so he sat in Osborne's funeral home for 6 weeks. Mum was now a widow and she'd lost her husband, but not for 1 second did she forget about us kids and grieve by herself. She chose to stay in PNG and allow us to pack up and come home as a family. She didn't send us home or take us home and then go back to pack up. Because we'd all grown up there, she decided that we would leave as a family together because we were all leaving a piece of ourselves behind. We all arrived home on the 6th of April, and then on the 9th we buried Dad. Having time to say goodbye to Dad and PNG being our home and the most familiar place I knew, and starting over again in New Zealand was good but hard at the same time. Even though Mum was very sad and found it hard without Dad, she always put us kids and our family first and made the hard choices that would benefit the family. When we got home, she chose not to homeschool us, but to put us into the local primary school, Westbrook, because she knew we would need lots of company and a chance to make new friends after having to leave our old ones. I was used to having tons of friends that I would play with all day in the village once school lessons had finished, but now we were starting from scratch in an unfamiliar place. Mum supported us when we were sad and helped us through our low times. The part Mum played in how she helped us kids when we couldn't help ourselves was all you could ask for in a mum. Helping us make new friends and settle into a new school, a new street, but still continue with our normal routines and childhood activities. Mum's attitudes and actions helped me cope and be more resilient. I was forced into having to make new friends in a new place, get used to being in a normal school classroom, even though I just wanted to return to my old friends and what I knew. Meeting lots of new people was not hard for me because I did it all the time, but every time I'd meet someone new, I always had that one extra sad thing to tell them, yet one less person to tell at the end of the day. I've got a lot of living still to do, but my faith has had a major role in my life I've had so far. I want and need to give thanks to God for this and his help over the years. It's coming up 10 years since Dad died, and he's helped me in so many ways, and in ways that I haven't even recognised. I choose to continue to keep a good attitude, love others, and be happy and caring, and not let this tragic accident weigh on my life, but to carry it and remember all the happy and good times I had throughout my childhood. I've taken all the good ones and all of the bad, and it's made me a stronger, more independent, happy woman I am today and will continue to be.